Immigration and Customs Enforcement has revealed new rules for international students for the upcoming fall semester. The new guidelines from ICE say any student with a visa under its Student and Exchange Visitor Program must take an in-person class to remain in the U.S.
2020, the year of new normal. For a lot of international students in the United States, the coronavirus caused a lot of confusion and frustration. Students paid tuition in full, colleges transitioned to online classes, students were forced to pack and leave their dorms on a 2-day notice. They have to either crash at a friend's place or make a last-minute decision to catch a 14-hour flight home. Most recently, there's also a new guideline from ICE. The guideline states that any students with a visa under a Students and Exchange Visitor Program must take an in-person class or remain in the US. Here's what it meant. Students who take online-only classes in the fall will have to transfer or leave the country, or face possible deportation. One student, Evelyn Kuo, got the news from a text messaging group. She is currently an international student at University of Washington in Seattle.
So the first news I saw was in the WeChat group of the Chinese students at ComLead.
She first found out about the policy change from the Chinese students at her graduate program. Once Evelyn realizes that the policy change is really happening, the stress and uncertainty kicks in.
After a couple hours, when I talked to my boyfriend, I started crying because I felt really helpless and just didn't know what to do. And even though like schools were ensuring that they would try their best to keep us or help us stay in the US, there's still a lot of mental stress because who knows what might happen next. So just sort of stressed.
Evelyn is scared, upset, and she doesn't know what to do next. Luckily, she is surrounded by a good support system. She also takes advantage of various resources online.
So after that, my boyfriend and my friends tried to calm me down because I talked to a lot of friends and there are a lot of resources popping up on social media.
Evelyn knows that colleges make a lot of money from international students like her. She knows her university will try their best to help her and other international students remain in the US.
It's nearly impossible for them to not help us. So UW started talking to all the programs and international student office, and they're in touch with, I think, a lot of officials.
With the support from family and friends, Evelyn is more confident about her next step. When asked if she has a plan B in mind, she responds,
I didn't actually have a plan B. I kind of knew that Trump would call back the policy after like a lot of people were protesting about this. So I felt better compared to the first day when I noticed this news.
Luckily for Evelyn, her prediction was correct.
The Trump administration reverses course on its new students' visa rule.
After 3 hectic weeks for colleges and international students, the Trump administration backed off the policy. Nevertheless, for the brief amount of time that the policy was in place, it caused a lot of stress and frustration for students like Evelyn. Anand, a freshman at Harvey Mudd, considered himself so lucky for leaving the United States before everything went completely downhill.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really want to stay on campus anyway, so I guess that, and also it's pretty unsafe. They didn't kick us out, but they heavily implied that they would like us to leave, so I was like, alright, I mean, I was planning to leave anyway, so yeah.
Although the policy has been called back by President Trump, there are serious consequences. The impact of the policy change is irreversible. When asked if Anand thinks about transferring to a college outside the US, he answered without any hesitation.
Oh, yeah, I actually have. Because honestly, I don't know when this COVID thing's gonna be over. I don't know if the school's gonna force me to go back eventually when it's still unsafe, and I really wouldn't want to do that. So, yeah, I'm definitely considering it.
He is considering between a few different options.
Well, anywhere that could provide me with a good education, I guess. But I'm thinking maybe the UK or like Singapore, because that's pretty close to home. So, yeah, one of those two right now, I guess.
Evelyn and Anand's situation are both slightly different, but they do have one thing in common. They both believe the policy change represents a bigger issue than simply just being forced to leave the US.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people tend to think of the United States as like the holy land. It's like the land of opportunities, like maybe even like the best place on earth, right? And maybe for a period of time, I kind of thought that as well. But I think this experience really shed light on, like, I guess the dark side of the United States and how it's not really the flawless country that a lot of us think it is.
To Evelyn, the policy change reflects the immigration issue that has been the center of debate for years.
And I also want the people or the citizens in the US to know that this is an issue and we should also care about it, because this is not about the international students anymore, and it's about Trump's attitude towards immigrants or refugees. And from this tiny little policy, we can tell that the government doesn't accept immigrants or foreigners, that they are not that welcoming anymore.
As of August 2020, schools across the country are still figuring out whether they would offer in-person, online, or hybrid classes. International students who traveled home do not plan on returning anytime soon. Some students even take a gap year or transfer to colleges in different countries. Although ICE has reversed its policy, the issue is far from over.